Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. Today is May 20th. The time is approximately 4:31 p.m. We have agenda before us. Do I have a motion for approval?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda that we have before us.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none. Motion has been made, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We have an agenda. Dr. Hummer.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to everybody. It's great to see you all. We have 6 items on the agenda this evening for you all. 2 of these we are asking to go to the full board for approval, with the other 4 just being information items for you all. The first is a standard. We're going to do an update of where we are with the capital projects list, answer any questions that you might have with the progress of those projects, as well as the James Wood High School renovations. We're going to keep that as a running item on here as well until that completes in next summer. Hopefully that will be here before we know it, so we can move forward with the completion of that project. We're also going to provide you some information on the redistricting process. As we move forward with some of these projects, we are going to have to take a look at redistricting, specifically with any sort of expansion or the building of another school. So we want to kind of talk through that process, answer any questions that you might have, because it is a very involved process, as I'm sure you guys know. We also have some special guests here this evening. We're going to talk through the renaming of the trail at Indian Hollow Elementary School for the naming of our young man that had passed away earlier this year, Charlie Marple, which we miss dearly. But we want to talk through that process with you all, and that will need to go to the full board for approval. We also have a consideration that we are going to start the initial steps of looking at a potential IT space solution. Mr. Goodwin is going to go through some of the challenges and issues we have here in central office with our IT department. We have some suggestions and ideas with that. I want to commend him and his team and the staff for thinking outside the box in regards to hopefully making that come to fruition. So we'll talk that through with you, those very, very early initial stages of that. And then we also have another item that's going to go to the full board for approval, which is the lock replacement and installation. We have Mr. Conlon here that can answer any questions on that as well, and that will also need to go to the full board for approval. So with that, Mr. Chair, hand it over to Mr. Goodwin and his team. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Hummer. Mr. Chair, members of the board, great to see you. Dr. Hummer, thank you for the opportunity we have to spend about an hour with you talking about some important things tonight. We'll start our meeting with our capital projects list. So I'd like to ask Mr. Davis if he'd come up, and he'll talk about our current projects and also take a look at some of our projects coming up over the summer and on into the fall. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, board members, Dr. Hummer. Let's get started. So Sharando interior high school painting, that is complete, all except the Warrior did not go back on the wall yet. You know, they're figuring that one out. So we're done down there. James Wood Middle School interior painting is about 60% complete. We've got estimate early July 2024. We may beat that, but we'll see how that goes. But we're moving pretty good there. Looks good. Some capital projects, list of highlights, upcoming summer projects. We've got Apple Pie, fire alarm. These are all fire alarm projects. Apple Pie, Dow J, Stonewall, Armel, and sport facilities. We did open bids on Apple Pie, Dow J, and Armel, and we have awarded those as well. Just an update, Patriot Fire and Shallow Creek got those. If you guys are familiar with those at all. Local vendors, take care of that. Task order still are our MM working through all of our fire alarms. Notable upcoming projects.
Mr. Davis, if I may, just the
Yes.
Support Facilities West, Bright Futures. Which one's that?
That is
Fire alarms or?
what do we refer to that building?
It's
The old transportation building.
Yeah,
Okay. And the engineering drawings?
we're working on those
working on
right
those?
now.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
just
that's for
trying-
fire alarms?
Yeah, fire
Okay.
alarm only.
Got it.
And that's off of 522, just past James Wood High School.
Okay.
Up on the left.
Mr. Chair, if I may, so thank you for asking that question, Mrs. Klein. So 2 reasons that we really need to look at fire alarms in that facility. First is our staff is in there, but secondly, we do have students that go in there, and we just want to make sure that the building is up to code and it's safe. So that's the reason that we're adding those fire alarms to that facility.
Gotcha. Great. Thank you.
Sure. Some notable upcoming projects, electrical service cleanup at Dow J. We're still bidding that out. Bids came back pretty high. We redid our scope of work to get them more in line. Plumbing fixture replacement for Dow J, Middletown, and NRAP. We've got as far as we can get until kids are out, so we can start tearing things out a little bit more and finish that up over the summer. Building automation for Dow J and Apple Pie are still on schedule for summertime. Again, we got to wait for the schools to empty out before we can get going there. Gym floor refinish, still on schedule for summer. POs have all been cut, so.
Mr. Davis, if I could, Mr. Chair, if I could also mention, at Evendale Elementary School, we're partnering as a new opportunity with a gym floor refinishing project with Frederick County Parks and Recreation. We've actually asked them for some funding when they approached us about the opportunity to paint some pickleball courts inside the elementary school setting. They're going to help pay for the lines of that. We were going to refinish the floor anyway, so it'll be stripped. We'll replace it back with them, which is a great opportunity for our community to expand collaborative space. And Frederick County Parks and Recreation plans to provide nets and equipment so that our students at that school can learn how to play pickleball in their physical education program.
Great.
Thank you.
Some recently funded projects. A note up top, these projects must be completed or encumbered by June 30th. Patty, just make sure I explain this encumbered term correctly. Basically, the PO has to be, we have to have it bid, we have to have it vet out, and we have to have the PO cut inside the system, and that allows us to write a contract. That's encumbered before June 30th. We can spend the funds, great. Some of these projects, like the bleachers, will bleed past June 30th. So James Wood High School dust collection system, so you guys know what that is. Shop class, the exhaust from the sawdust and all that. Orchard View exterior door replacements, James Wood bleachers out back, additional cafeteria tables, and a track overlay at James Wood Middle School. So, any questions on any upcoming projects or anything?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I have a couple of questions.
sure.
The track overlay, it's going to be asphalt,
Yes.
so it won't be spike friendly.
It won't be the rubberized asphalt.
Okay. Is there a particular reason why other than cost?
Cost and back for like. So.
Oh, it's got to be a like for like thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did not bid the rubberized, so.
I see. My second question, and this is something to think about or not think about or deny. When I was in college, I used to come back in the summertime and I would paint one of the schools in my community. And I was wondering if we ever discussed or thought about having teachers be able to come and make extra money in the summertime to paint. Now, I'm not saying that anyone can paint, but it certainly doesn't necessarily need to be a contractor, which would be a lot more expensive, where the services purchases the paint and then we pay the employee an hourly wage in the summertime. So unless it's a huge project.
Mr. Chair, I mean, I've never heard of that before.
I've never heard of
Mr.
that.
Davis, I don't know if you can shed light on who paints and what goes into that process, because I want to make sure because one, again, we're all about considering new ideas, so it's not a no, but I just want to make sure that when we paint, we do it right, so it's not something, because we're going to have to pay these individuals, so if it's something that we're going to have to repaint every 2 years instead of every 5, I want to make sure that we're not doing that. So please, for the board and for us and those listening, talk us through who typically does the painting. Is it contractor? Is it locals? Is it our own staff? Like who does that? If we can talk through that, please.
So typically, we bid out the entire school, all interior school. It goes to a contractor. They bring a crew in at night, and they paint. It does involve the school to move all the furniture. And if we had just teachers doing it, I don't think we'd hit the entire school over summer. I think the goal here is to paint the entire school once, walk away from it 5 years. Bringing teachers in, I don't know if there's a liability issue or not, but certainly a workmanship. I mean, these are professional painters painting.
Sure.
Doing an excellent job getting in, getting out in 2 months.
No
we can
doubt, and
paint
there's no
schools,
question
so.
with that at all. I'm just saying, the school district that I went to, it's a very small community, and I mean, the school that I painted was the same school my great-grandfather went to, but they would hire teachers to come in and help the custodial staff clean the classrooms as well as paint, and I was the painter for my elementary school for about 3 years.
Yeah. I'd welcome custodial help over the summer all day long, but painting, I think it's a little specialized, and maybe they're good at it, maybe they're not, but we want it to look professional when it's
Sure.
done, cut in, things like that. And, I don't know, it's a little hard to and then hard to manage individual teachers. And say you get 10 of them, whether they're showing up, not showing up, or whatever, a crew's a whole lot easier to
Much bigger
manage, so.
district and a much bigger piece of pie, I understand.
Yeah, and trying to knock a whole school out in 2 months we can do that with a contractor. It's a little
Sure.
hard with individuals, so.
But with custodial staff, that could be something too, that if teachers are looking for extra work over the summer, that's something that maybe we could look at.
We do hire teachers to run like cabling for IT. So they'll be popping into the ceilings and running that cabling, and our teachers do that over the summer if they have an interest in doing that.
So we
So
could add.
we do give people opportunities.
So we could do custodial staff as well if they wanted to.
We could explore that option. I mean, we have a full custodial staff, as far as I know, other than the jobs that are continue to be posted. But again, it's a standard. It's also working with chemicals. There's some complexities that can't be volunteer driven, but we're certainly glad to look into that.
All right, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Agreed. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just one more question while
Yes.
we're on this slide.
Bring 'em on.
Like for the track overlay. Can you explain?
Yeah, like for like. So it's asphalt now.
It's asphalt now.
It
Okay.
is asphalt now. So we'll mill out some of the bad areas if it's cracked or divoted or falling apart. Mill that out, which means we'll tear it up and then replace it with new, and then just go over the top with asphalt.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Being a former track athlete in high school at Sharando, running on asphalt or concrete track stinks.
It's hard.
Is this standard throughout the Northwestern District? Does every other school in the Northwestern District in the region as well have asphalt tracks?
The high schools, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, are the rubberized ones. This is because it's a middle school.
Okay, got it. So not all middle schools have rubberized tracks. Okay, that makes me feel
Yes.
a little bit better. Okay.
Yeah, and a high school, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe are rubberized
Or
here.
rubberized. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I know for a fact that Millbrook does, because I was at a Millbrook track meet, and that track was rubberized.
Yeah, the high schools are.
Yeah, the high
Middle
schools
schools
are.
are not here in
Yeah.
this county, but in other counties, they are.
Sharando is too, yeah. So it's definitely something we can look into. It will be an additional cost, so we want to make sure that we're factoring that in. And like you said, Mrs. Klein, we want to make sure that we are not putting our students at risk of any sort of safety issues. I know that the cleats is definitely something to take in mind, but we can definitely look into that a little bit further.
Sure.
Thank you.
Now, I was just going to add that if all of the other ones are asphalt and we do one with rubberized for middle school, then we need to do them all
them all,
rubberized.
right.
So we need to just take a review of that. But this one's really unusable.
I was about to say that this track, if you've been out there, is in really rough shape, so we definitely want to get on that. But if we want to look in the future at looking at all 4 middle schools, we can definitely do that.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
I look forward to looking into that.
Great. Any other questions? Great. Thank you. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I would be the first person to admit that I probably have larger shoes than Kevin Kinney, but I could never walk in his. And so I'm going to fill in for Mr. Kinney as he's not here this evening on the James Wood High School renovation. So we're going to walk you through in the following slides just some of the more recent work that's happening there as we begin to look to summer. It's a very busy time. So if you look, you have the group of photos. That's basically the new cafeteria, looking down onto the new gym concourse. In the photo that you have on the right of your screen, there's a half-block wall down low. If you look up high, there's yellow that's up there. The higher portion of that wall is actually the cafeteria windows. There'll be glass there that will then look down onto that gym. So you literally could be in the cafeteria and look down into the gym. And the walk that you see in that picture over there on that right-hand side is actually the Hall of Fame walk that will be coming in through one of the entrances. And so they'll have that decorated with all of the awards and things that James Wood High School has won through the years. As you continue to look at pictures, all the flooring, the vinyl flooring has been installed in the upper level classrooms and halls. At the time of these photos, we were waiting on the above the grid area to be inspected, so that's why the ceiling package has not been installed there yet, although all of the ceiling grid is in and it's stacked there ready to be installed. And so, of course, those floors are covered with paper to make sure it's not damaged. DES is one of our vendors. They'll begin installing the wooden tops to the railings this upcoming week. They should be there actually this week. In addition, the same vendor, DES, has installed most of all of the casework required. Casework would be the cabinetry, the countertops and such. That's required in all of those new classrooms. So that's beginning to take shape. Again, the ceiling package is not installed as we're waiting on that inspection to take place. This shows a little bit about the system branch our builders have put into place for themselves. Frederick County Public Schools were considered the owners, and the subcontractors need to be aware of what's going on in those classrooms. That QR code that you see in the photograph is attached. If you were to use your phone and you had Procore loaded on there as an app, you could pull it up room by room and it would give you the punch list. Much like if you're building your own house, there's always things that need to still be completed. Once the punch list is completed, they would sign off on that sheet that you see there in the photo, and they'd turn that room over to us. The new kitchen serving line is coming into shape, and the equipment's been installed. I was over there the other day. It's very impressive. So the epoxy flooring in the kitchen's been completed. There will also be TV monitors up above the ordering area for the cafeteria with the menu items and things like that on there for students. It will be a great space that you see there, and you can see all the food warming equipment as well as refrigeration and freezing equipment that's there as well. Of course, again, you see the ceiling's not completed due to the inspection in those photos. And then here you can see where the soil's beginning to take shape there, where you can walk down into the gym. If you look at the picture on the bottom left-hand corner, there's a crosswalk which is designated by the white hash marks going across the concrete. There's a white pickup truck. If you look at the end of the white pickup truck where the bed area is, the soil there is compacted. You would walk across the road at that crosswalk and down, if you can imagine, that will be where the entrance will be right into the building. So you'll come across from the parking lot. There'll be two entrances on that level. The parapet wall, which is on top of the auditorium building, is also being reduced in height to improve those site elevations as well. That was a part of the correction made by the architect when this building was designed, the redesign, on that building. So I just wanted to see if you all had any questions. Again, I'm not Kevin Kenny, but I tried to be him to the best of my ability.
Any questions from board members? I have a quick question about that bottom left picture.
Sure.
Where that crosswalk's going across, run to change in elevation with the yellow curbing right there. That's going to be common use. Will that curb need to be fixed? Because that looks like
the curb will be
trip
enhanced
hazard.
there in that one particular area to make sure that we have the opportunity for anyone who may be mobility challenged or anything else, and it'll be marked there in a much different way once that project is ready to take that wall down. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the support you all continue to give as we get closer and closer to getting these projects complete at the high school. So thank you for that. All right. If there aren't any other questions, I'll move on to the next piece of our information for the evening. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Wayne Lee to the podium to come up and talk a little bit about redistricting process. And again, it's an overview of our process. Thank you, Wayne.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good afternoon. This presentation does focus more on the process, but I will refer to the Ayler rezoning frequently because it was our most recent rezoning. And that's the rezoning I refer to with the first line there that says 2020 middle school redistricting. And I wanted to give you all an idea of what the scale of a rezoning can be. For Ayler, all 4 middle schools were involved in the rezoning. Even though the direct impact was only to 3 of the schools, an adjustment was necessary, and it drew Frederick County Middle School in as well. You can see there 120 students ended up being redistricted. When we first got our first 4 options, one of those options had as many as 260 students, 260 families being impacted. So working with the consultant, working with the rezoning committee, we got that number down to 120 families. And I think that was a pretty good benefit to the community. And one of the reasons that I think it's beneficial to hire a consultant, whoever that might be. Consultant brings experience. They do this all the time, so they bring a pretty good skill set, and they're impartial as well. So when it comes to the hard decisions, which neighborhood do we move, they're going to be able to take an impartial look at it and come up with a set of reasons why we should move one neighborhood instead of another. A consultant will be able to focus on working with the community. That will help reduce anxiety. As you can see, we went from 260 students to 120 students. That was a great big help. And of course, in the end, the goal is to reduce the impact to the community, to families and the neighborhoods. By the way, if you all have questions while I'm going through, there's several slides in this presentation. Please interrupt, and I'd be glad to answer your questions as we go through.
I do have one, since you made the offer
Okay.
while we're at a stopping point. With the AILR process and just the process in general as we move forward, is there the option to ask students and families, hey, we're moving you perhaps to this school or this school. Would you like to move? Do you have a choice? Do we give the choice first before we say to certain families, you're going here, you're going there? Even if, and I know bus routes could be impacted, but let's just say, for example, hypothetically, a student wants to go to a different school, parents drive them, or if they're high schoolers, they drive themselves. Would they be given first dibs, if you will, at moving to another school, so that would take one person off the list, another family off the list that doesn't want to move?
So a complex answer that I'm going to try to boil down. It depends. It is, yes. So it depends on whether we're looking at high school or we're looking at the other two levels. We've not given that option in the past, but I can see us doing it in particular for the high schools.
Okay.
There are some school districts near us, excuse me, that actually rolled into the attendance of a new high school where the first year just the freshmen attended, the second year it was sophomores and so on. So that way, this identity that families have built, I'm a warrior, they don't have to lose that through a redistricting. And yeah, transportation does become an issue. And so we would need to focus on that. Another option in rezonings, especially for middle and elementary, would be to be a little bit more permissive with attendance variances. And so the families who are greatly impacted, like for daycare, or who are very emotionally attached to the school that they're currently at, could have an option to stay.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Mrs. Klein, that is a fantastic question, and this is why we're kind of going through this now, because this is very, very complicated. And I think to add to his response is when we take a look at redistricting, we're going to look at a map. And when we look at that map, we might say, all right, well, let's move this neighborhood over, but that neighborhood only might have 10 kids in it. Whereas another neighborhood might have 300 kids, and we might have to split that neighborhood in half. So it gets very complicated, because then if you have some students from this magisterial district and this 3 kids here, that piecemealing piece is definitely gets very complicated. For us, if we get that 4th high school, we are going to have to talk through that in regards to, are we going to grandfather seniors in to the high schools that they are in? I don't know if that option is going to work. I have seen that option before in regards to starting with freshmen and sophomores. I've seen that with districts that don't have as much of a capacity issue as we do, so that might be a little complicated to do. But if we did that, I think it's going to compound the issues that we have moving forward. But we can definitely talk through those options. At the end of the day, and I know that Mr. Lee mentioned, the consultant. At the end of the day, it's the school board's decision about how you want to do that. Like, we can have 4 neighborhoods that you would like to move, but if you're like, I just want to do those 2, and then we'll do an option, we could do that, and we talk through those pros and cons of what that needs to look like. It is complicated. We have to remember when we're looking at numbers on a paper, it's more than just numbers, they're actual kids. So we just have to be very careful with that. So great question.
This hits home to me because back when I was a senior at Sharando, it looked like Millbrook was going to open. And so at that time, I would have loved to have gone to Millbrook all 4 years, but I was already established at Sharando. If Millbrook had opened another year earlier, it would have impacted me. And so I'm looking at this very closely. Should we get that 4th high school? Because I still remember that process. It wasn't quite so silver back then, but I remember it like it was yesterday. So this hits home to me. So I'll probably have more questions for you, Mr. Lee, moving forward.
Alrighty, and I've been a parent going through a rezoning, so I know what they go through.
Yep.
The first step in the redistricting process is to collect and analyze data. And I only have one line for this, but it's a very labor-intensive process. They take all the data that we give them, and they produce some products with it, and you're going to see those products later in the presentation. and those products are key to the success of the process. Step number 2 is to select a redistricting committee. In the past, that committee has consisted of both school leadership and community members, whether it's parents or community leaders. It depends on who's interested. For Ayler, we did an application process for the committee. And to note, so that you all know kind of the chain of command, that rezoning or redistricting committee does report to the Buildings and Grounds Committee.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. And this is a question to you, Dr. Hummer. As a board member and a parent, would I or my wife be able to be, more directly me, on this redistricting committee? Because it will affect my daughter if we do get a 4th high school, or potentially affect my daughter. So as a parent, I'm a community member too.
Well, that would be up to the decision process. We would decide that, the Building and Grounds Committee would decide about how we determine who's on those committees, so that request would come to the,
I understand, but I thought maybe
Sorry.
you might know if there's a conflict of interest since I'm on the board. I'm not a member of Grounds and Building and Grounds, but
no.
Okay.
No, that would not. Even though you are a parent, you are still a school board member, so you can remove your hat in certain conversations, but you're still both. So you, as a constituent, it would have to go through the process that the
Okay, that's all I wanted to
established,
know.
and then they would make that determine if there was any sort of conflict.
thank you.
Yeah, good question.
And Mr. Bell, this will affect my sons too, so I'm
Yeah.
right there with you. I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
silver too. Where my beard is anyway.
Third step in the redistricting process is to create objectives. We've pretty much carried this same set of objectives forward from rezoning to rezoning over the course of several years. We've fine-tuned them, and we think that, at least in the past, they've worked for us very well, but this is something that the school board and the Buildings and Grounds Committee has input on. What are your objectives for the rezoning? And we would incorporate that into a set of redistricting objectives. So you can see the set that we had here for Ayler. The one that the committee struggled with the most was to improve feeder patterns. And just so I'm communicating on what a feeder pattern is, that's the pattern of students going from elementary school to middle school. Not every student in one elementary school goes to the same middle school. So there's a feeder pattern there, and the same from middle to high school. So when we talk about improving the alignment of attendance zones, we have 2 options with the feeder patterns. If we can align exactly and the entire elementary school can go to one of the middle schools, that's great. But very difficult to do, or at least it's proven difficult in the past. As we get bigger, and it'll be well after I'm retired, we'll be big enough to start aligning those districts. The second option to improve the feeder pattern is to balance the split. So the best, for instance, I have is we have a 4-way split from Orchard View Elementary School going to all 4 middle schools. And we have tried and tried to fix that, and we haven't been able to. So maybe with an additional high school, that's an opportunity. We'll need to think that through. But balancing that split 50-50 or 33-33-33 is a lot better than sending just 5% of the students to the next level of school. Fourth step in the process is to develop background report. This is one of the products from the initial analysis, as is step number 5. This background report helps to ground the committee, get their feet on the ground. So they know the process that they're going to go through step by step. That helps to gain their comfort with the process and with the tasks that they need to accomplish. The redistricting objectives create a framework within which they work. That also helps to ground them. And then there is a load of information they are given to help with decisions and to help bring up questions so that the options become more and more robust over time. But to start with, we have to have initial objectives, or initial options, rather, for the redistricting committee to look at. And so that's a product also that's put together as part of the initial analysis, and it really is just a starting point for discussion. So each option comes with a set of information. What does this option accomplish? And the committee can take that information and the background information and analyze how well does this particular option meet our objectives. What are the impacts of this option? Can we mitigate those impacts? And so we go through that whole process. Step number 6 is to hold public information sessions. Gathering input from the public is crucial to a successful rezoning. We have had in the past 2 sessions. The first session is just an introductory session. We're considering a rezoning. This is the need for the rezoning. And it may or may not have an initial look at areas of the county to be impacted. That'll be a decision that has to be made before that particular information session. But the second information session is going to be held towards the end of the process. It definitely has to be held before the last committee meeting, so that way there's a well-developed option for the public to look at, and the public has the opportunity for what they have to say at that session to be input to the committee's last meeting. There are also other options for the public to have input. Besides the public information sessions, in the past, we have had a public input form on our website. The consultant has had the same on their website, as well as the options that are currently being considered, so that the public can kind of see the progress as months go on. Of course, there will be emails, phone calls. All those are considered and shared with the committee. You guys will receive phone calls and emails, just so you know. And in the past, we have also done a survey of residents. We publish it, backpack stuffer, so that the families know that we're doing this survey. You can go online, fill out answers to questions, and that can help us to see the issues in different ways. That has been very helpful in the past. Step number 7 in the redistricting process is, of course, the redistricting committee meetings. Number of meetings will vary depending on how complex the particular rezoning is. In the past, we've had 4 and 5 meetings total. I can see with the high school needing more, so that's a possibility. To note, the redistricting committee has full discretion to alter the options. So they have a framework they're working in, which is the objectives, but within those objectives, they can completely alter the options that they have in front of them. They can eliminate options. They can create new options as the meetings go along.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Sure.
the meetings that you mentioned up there, specifically the public information sessions, will they be held in the communities in which will be affected, or are they going to be held here? And if so, could they be held in the communities in which they're going to be affected?
They could absolutely be held there.
What about the redistricting committee meetings? I assume that they're public.
Those meetings are public. In the past, we just chose one school to hold them at, and it was a school that was in the
Redistricting zone.
redistricting area, yeah.
Yeah, because I know it'd be easier than for a lot of folks to go there than to come here. So I'm just checking things.
Yep, and I can recall having the public information sessions in 2 different places, 2 different schools. So that way, different groups of the public have a better chance of attending.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee,
Yes, sir.
it's my understanding, though, that when we looked at the truncated rezoning and some of the other graphs and information that we've had before us, that this would be something that would be county-wide redistricting.
It could be a comprehensive rezoning, yes. It depends on direction from you all.
Because, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. I was actually going to mention that at the end of this. Keep in mind that there's many different reasons to do a redistricting. You can do spot redistricting based on certain numbers that we see as a board and as a superintendent in regards to, all right, the enrollment is a little high, but we have a school right next door where the enrollment's lower, so we can make that decision in regards to shifting those spot rezoning. Then we have whenever we build or expand, where we want to make sure that we are balancing out those feeder patterns as well as responding to that expansion or building of a new school. And then there's also, as you mentioned there, Mr. Chair, is that there could be a potential redistricting across the school division in regards to where lines are. Again, it's the will of the board about what that looks like. I think one of the things that we had looked at and discovered is that our numbers are really high, so doing that redistricting when we potentially are going to have one coming up, we might not see the impact that we would like to see, especially since we're looking at doing one again with the expansion. But again, the will of the board, we can do that. But all that to say, for what Mr. Bell is saying, if we did have these sessions, what I would recommend is that we would have each of these redistricting committee meetings, maybe one in each region of the county, just so we give those individuals opportunities to provide feedback. So like we said here, 4 to 6, if we need to do 7, we'll do 7. If we need to do 8, as Mr. Lee mentioned, the biggest part of a redistricting process is involving the public, involving the community, and that is where we would fall short of moving forward with this, is not giving people the opportunity or not coming across as giving people the opportunity to have input on this. So absolutely, you are correct.
And I think that one of the issues that we've ran into in the past that we've discussed on prior committee meetings is, in the past, it has been kind of patchwork, for lack of a better term, where we just take where Jordan Springs got put in, or Snowden Bridge, or whatever, and we've just patched it together, and it's kind of made it where we've run into some issues later. Now that we can have the opportunity to do a county-wide assessment and redistricting, it might make it a little bit easier and smoother transitions for community members and students, parents throughout the county as we look at our CIP for not only a Fourth High School, potentially other schools that we see that can become an issue with the county. So yeah, I love the idea of hitting it at the micro levels, but we also have to look at it at the macro level as well. Yes, to Mr. Bell's point, going to check those individual regions and communities, I think would be great, but we're also going to have a bigger meetings, maybe here or one of the high schools where we can fit people from all over the county, so we can get everybody in the same room speaking the same language.
Yes, for sure.
Step 8 of the redistricting process is the recommendations. So there are 2 sets of recommendations, one made by the redistricting committee to Buildings and Grounds, and then one made by Buildings and Grounds to the school board. What's not shown on this slide is that both the Buildings and Grounds Committee and the school board do have the ability to make changes to whatever options are presented to them. So that option that's presented, or those options that are presented by the redistricting committee, are not set in stone, not until they're actually adopted by the school board. So if during step number 9, there are some comments that have a significant impact on the way we're thinking about this redistricting, changes can be made before the school board does adopt the redistricting plan. And then once the plan's adopted, we will send notification letters to the families that are impacted, and timing is a big deal. The rezoning process takes over a year from starting with the beginning data to the date that it's actually implemented. The redistricting gets implemented the first day of the following school year, with lots of preparation in between.
Is this something that, we need to be talking, our board, not only with the Board of Supervisors, but actually the planning board? I know that they have different developments coming up, and we can look at some of those. I don't want to call them feeder patterns because we're using feeder patterns in a different way, but as far as feeding new students into the community, or at least new residents, where we can kind of gauge where our growth would be. I think it would be really imperative that we talk amongst that other board. That way they can see what we have, we can see what they have, and it helps us kind of work together throughout that. I know you and I have been over there, and the chairman has been over there for the county planning sessions. But bringing this kind of information and kind of, getting it out there to state what we want and what we're looking at toward the future, I think it'll make it a smoother process. That way the board of supervisors and the county as a whole can't just say, well, why are we doing this now? When it's time to get it done. And so I like that we're planning this out ahead of time, and I know it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow, and I appreciate the information here.
You're welcome. And yes, working closely with planning downtown is a great big help, provides us with a bunch of information and allows us to adapt as the situation changes. And you'll actually be seeing one of those new subdivisions in the daily here this week. So was not on the radar before.
Mr. Chair, if I can add one more thing to that. So if we do receive some sort of approval for one or all three of these projects that we currently have on the CIP, we're not going to wait until those projects are done and then redistrict. We're going to plan ahead. So for example, if we have 1 year left of any of these projects being completed, we're going to start that redistricting process in the last year of the completion of that project so that we can have all this done. And then when the project's done, we can then also have the redistricting done as well. And if it's more at a macro level, we can also still do it at that time as well. So just want to make sure you guys are aware of that.
And, just to get ahead of the curve as well, when we do that redistricting, if it's what's needed, and the board chooses to go that direction, it would behoove us to look at the proposed middle schools and elementary schools and kind of work that in so we can adjust whether we get that new project or not. It's just something to look at to make it a smoother transition for the public out there.
All righty. Well, that's all I had. Anybody else have any questions? All righty. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. That's a very complicated process, and I appreciate the information. Did a great job. So thank you to my team tonight. I'd like to move on to the next opportunity we have, talking about renaming of the trail at Indian Hollow Elementary School. I'd like to invite my friends who've come up to help me present tonight. As if you all will make your way to the podium, we have Charlie's teacher, Charlie's principal, and I guess I would say Charlie's colleague.
Co-worker.
Deputy Nicely, so yeah, I'm not sure, yeah, that's right. I'm not sure, we all think Charlie was probably really the sheriff, but Lenny let him, work alongside him there, but anyway. Thank you for the opportunity we have, and before we start, I just asked everyone if they would introduce themselves.
A little shorter. Sean, your principal at Indian Hollow. This is my second year at Indian Hollow.
I am Christy Linneberg, and I was Charlie's teacher for 2 years.
And I'm Deputy Nicely. I'm the school resource officer for Gainsborough and Indian Hollow. And Charlie bossed me around constantly. So.
All right, they're going to remain with me here at the podium. This is going to be a collaborative opportunity for us to talk with you tonight. So I think probably all of you know Charlie was deputized as deputy sergeant with the Frederick County Sheriff's Office, Unit 621, and he functioned also as a school resource officer for Indian Hollow Elementary School. We're here tonight because we do have a policy, 614R, a regulation there that dedicates areas of school facilities or grounds, which gives you the opportunity and responsibility to allow us to rename existing school spaces. So there is a trail that's located right behind Indian Hollow Elementary School. I'm sure you're quite familiar with in your neighborhood that's there. So we also are allowed to consider renaming of spaces based on folks, children or adults who made significant contributions to our community, to a particular school or facility. So we want to make sure that we present that underneath Frederick County Public Schools Policy 614. I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Angela. We were invited by the principal to cook pancakes for the teachers for Teacher Appreciation Week, which I think they turned out pretty well. I think everybody liked them. Hopefully they did. And after I put my Blackstone in the back of my car, while I was still dressed in cooking attire and my tie or whatever I had on, I went for a walk. So I wanted to walk that trail. So I got into the back. So the Indian Hollow Nature Trail sign that you see exists there now. There's kind of a thicket of trees with a little gathering spot as the entrance to the trail. And then there's also some significant rocks. So I know Deputy Nicely, I think, wanted to talk for a minute about what role those may play in this trail dedication.
I know I'm short, sorry. So the rocks was dug up when the school was built. I can't remember exactly when.
88.
Was it 88? Is that when that was built? But those rocks were placed there after the school was built. I don't know if you all have ever seen Millbrook. I'm pretty sure you have, where they always do the rocks every year. So I'm 6 years of being in an SRO with 23 years of being in law enforcement. So the 4 years I was over at Millbrook, I got to watch them paint those rocks, and it was a big thing to the kids. So I came up with an idea because with us losing Charlie, we want to honor Charlie. And I think it would be a great thing for our community to heal as well. The kids love Charlie, the staff love Charlie. I miss him dearly. I miss those phone calls, hearing from him at night. So my idea I presented to Miss Muir was the rocks were up there. So my idea is there's a boulder that's to the left, and then if you can look where the pine trees, the middle picture, there's some benches, there's more of a flat rock there. So this would be the rock to the left, the big boulder in those pictures would be painted white. And if you look to the bottom left corner, that faces, the face of that rock, like looks towards the playground area, the basketball courts, the school. I want to paint Charlie's name, Deputy Marple, with the orange ribbon on it for the kids, so they would see that. My idea is for the kids, we're gonna have field day the 28th. What they would get to do, it would be in school colors, so it'd be red and blue. They get to put their handprints on that rock to touch Charlie. So those would stay there. So after everybody's done, you guys are also welcome to come out. Please come out. I know families coming out. I know people from the sheriff's office is gonna come out. We would like for anybody to come out that wants to do this. They put their handprints on there. After everything's done, I'm gonna clear coat the rock. So it will remain there. The rock to the right, what I came up with was to make it look nice because Trex is doing a lot of work to the nature trail for us. That rock would be a 5th grade project. So each year, 5th grade gets to change that rock. So it's always real nice and pretty back there, you know, before you would go up the trail. So that's one of the ideas that I came up with.
Love it. Love it. That's great. Great ideas. Oh.
Thank you for that description of the opportunity for projects. So that will be the entrance, and as you begin to walk down the trail, you can see that there's kind of gravel on that trail, kind of an uneven earthen surface that's there, and then there's some borders that hold that in. And I know, again, Trex is a big partner in this project and has gladly joined with Indian Hollow Elementary School to honor Charlie and improve this trail. There's some beautiful benches there. As you move along the trail on the, if you walk to the left, there's just a beautiful pasture that's there. I continued through the woods and I met this cow named James. No, I'm just kidding. But I thought to myself, what must the kids really enjoy this opportunity to walk around and be a part of nature, because it's in such a beautiful location of our county, and with agriculture being so important, it's just, you wander through the woods and then there's these beautiful open areas. Of course, that part of our county is a beautiful place. So the proposed new name for the trail at Indian Hollow Elementary School will be moving from the Nature Trail to the CM Trail. So would you mind just talking a little bit about how you came up with the name for the trail? Okay, thanks.
So it was not easy to come up with a name for the trail. You know, we wanted to be mindful of, you know, how the family might feel, or our students and families in the community. So that's how we came up with the CM Trail. So it's Charlie Marple, obviously, but we thought that might be a nice way so that when people are there, they'll still be able to read a bit about why this came to fruition, but they'll also see this name. And it won't be a person's name per se, but it is representative of him. And we did check with the family, talked with them about this, and they thought that was a good idea too. Is it okay if I share a little bit of history? So, believe it or not, we did a little research on this trail, how it started, where it came from, and how it began. So, it turns out that this has always been part of the community since 1993. So one of our parents, who was a former student, Mr. Walker, Benjamin Walker, did this trail as a project for his Boy Scout troop in 1993 as an 8th grader. He is, of course, his child now goes to Indian Hollow, a 4th grader. So we met with him quite a bit last week for a couple hours, and he presented us this book with how it all happened, who was part of it, pieces of the community who helped to make it happen. The good news is the Boy Scouts do these projects, but they don't maintain them or name them after a Boy Scout or a troop. But it's interesting that it comes, full circle. It's still that Indian Hollow community and family part of it. So I think it's going to be a fantastic thing to open that trail again, for students to be able to utilize it, taking walks. Trex will continue their partnership with us. They're going to replace all that gravel. They actually donated 2 additional seats, or benches rather, that will be placed out there too where the rocks are, so at that entrance. And then we'll do a little plaque at the front of it, and I think part of what we might put on that plaque is in one of the slides.
I'm also so grateful that Charlie's teacher's here, so I asked if she'd like to also say just a word or two, and she would, so thanks.
So I had the honor of being Charlie's teacher in 3rd grade, and then the kids bribed Miss Muir to let me loop with them to 4th, so I did. And Charlie's spirit lives on through anyone you talk to, even the kindergartners. I have one of my own who didn't go to school with Charlie. They even know who he is, and so it would be nice to see his spirit live on through this project.
One of the things about the trail that's very important is, and when we talked to his mom, was Charlie was a nature kid. Charlie was not a kid that was inside. He was always loved nature. So it was kind of like, what could we do to, honor Charlie? And the trail came up, and they really loved it because that's Charlie. Like the cows, and there's ponds up there with ducks. I could see Charlie chasing them. I'm glad the trail's not up there right now with Charlie, because I know where he'd be every day. But that's how Charlie was. And I've also reached out to the high schools as well, and they're looking to build bird feeders and stuff, and then we can place them along the trail. So, and then there's going to be community projects through the school as well. So where kids can take pine cones and roll them in peanut butter, put bird seed and put it up there so the birds have something to eat on and things like that as well.
Great.
Couple of project partners we mentioned already to you. Trex has been just incredibly generous in the opportunity that they've provided to the school to just make this trail something that will last a very long time. And also Frederick County Sheriff's Office, who we're always grateful for in their partnership, but particularly in this instance, their love and care of Deputy Marple. So just again, here's a picture of Charlie. So he was diagnosed with leukemia, AML, MDS, and then later on in that year, he became a school resource officer when he was deputized by the sheriff's office. And again, this trail, we're asking for your consideration and renaming this in honor of Charlie, who was an adventurous outdoor student who loved nature and outdoor activities. So we want to make sure that we present this to you tonight as something that will continue to allow Charlie to make an impact on that school community and on all of us. And one of the sayings, I think, was this Charlie saying, or was this Deputy Nicely you were saying at the bottom?
Actually, it came from his mom.
Charlie's mom always had something that she had to say, which was shared to me, so we added it at the bottom of the presentation, which is never give up, always be Charlie strong. So we do ask for you to consider this tonight as an action item when you have the opportunity to allow the renaming of this trail at Indian Hollow Elementary School, the CM Trail. So anyone else have anything you'd like to share?
Just real quick, when Mr. Muir and I talked to Mr. Walker, who made the trail, we also asked him about the naming it the CMM Trail, and he agreed. He loved the idea, and loved where this was going, and to see it come full circle with his daughter being there. So he was really excited. And he's also said, you need something, call him, he'll come up and help out.
I'd like to again thank each one of you for being here tonight. Thank you for the difference you've made in Charlie's life and in ours too.
Would you guys like to take a look at this book tonight?
You do-
You guys would like to do?
That is super cool. I'd love to see it. Could we leave it for tomorrow as well for the rest of the board? We're all pretty
Yeah.
much here with the exception of one, but,
I'll hold on
Yeah.
to it, and then tomorrow we have a meeting, so I can get it back perhaps or another
Yes.
time? Okay.
I appreciate it.
thank you, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next opportunity is also new business. It's for me, just quickly, for the potential IT space solution. Right out here behind, actually, if I skip to the next slide, Jameswood Middle School is there in the picture. In the very far back, there is a hockey rink that's there. And if you look at it from this picture here, it's probably easier to see. You can see students down there. With hockey, that's the field or grass space there behind Jameswood Middle School. So that is the space, the brick building that you see there with the two sets of risers in the front. So I'm going to go back to my first slide now that maybe you have that kind of in your mind about where it's located. That used to function as the old bus garage. So currently, that use is for IT storage and workspace that's there. There's also instructional materials stored in that space. We did go over with facility services and construction and planning and just do our own assessment of the building and kind of tried to see if, use the term, did it have good bones? So the answer was yes, it does have good bones. There's potential there, but it's used for what it is, and it's actually set up as an old bus garage with a bay on one side and an open space on another. One of the things I'd like to have us do is to consider is maybe using it for something in a different way. Currently, we have IT split into 3 different places around this building. We have, at the very back of this facility, we have a number of modular units that are there that are connected where some of the team is working. We have the IT office that's actually behind this room, just off to the side, and then we actually have another room which is down the middle hallway of this building. So functionally, these folks have to work all the time to kind of go back and forth because it's such a collaborative department where they're always working and doing things here. The other thing is our modulars out back don't actually have a restroom. So folks, when it's raining and folks, when it's cold and snowing and everything else, have to walk several hundred feet into the building, actually just come inside to use the restroom. So we'd like to fix that. In addition to that, we could get rid of the modulars that are out back, which are leased, which would save us money. That's something we're trying to do, is get out of the modular business. We don't own those, we lease those, so we'd like to not have to take care of them, and we'd like to get them off of the property and get that money for something that we actually would own. And finally, we're really working hard to find parent resource center space. Our special education department and also our communications department is collaboratively working on identifying a space where we can have families who come in. Many times you may come in and there's moms and dads that have their children here in the front area waiting to go to spaces and things like that. Well, we'd like to provide a better welcome by providing a better space for families who are coming in for services. That would allow us to identify and dedicate some space in a new way. So money savings, space savings. What I'm asking your permission, or what I'm actually wanting to make sure I provide some information to you about, is down on that corner now, back to the photo. I'd like to have our architect task group, RRMM, take a look at that building with good bones and see if it can be used to gather all of the IT team into one location with a bathroom that would actually function. It's probably large enough, tall enough to put everybody in there together. So what we would do is we'd have them do an assessment of the building with some potential drawings. And if it is something we can do, it would then be an item that would be placed on our CIP list that the board would have the opportunity to consider whether it's something you wish to move forward with. Drawings for that building would just be conceptual. They would actually do the work, and then I could present them to you with a cost associated with it, and then you could put it on the CIP and then determine if it's something that's on the front burner or on a back burner. But I won't really have the information until I actually get it back from our architect. So I think it's something that we've talked about probably as a division long before my time. What's the best use of that facility? I'm trying to solve some problems and then also save some money in the long run, but that's a solution that I'm proposing. I just need more information to be able to get that done. Any questions about that?
Questions, board members?
Just a request as we move forward with this project. Like one thing, as part of the analysis, not only I understand RMM as part of the task order, they're going to do the drawings and do the feasibility study, if you will.
Yes.
One thing I would like to see, you did mention leasing the modulars. That kind of sent up a flag in my mind of yes, definitely, if we can own and not lease something, that's best. I would love to see a breakdown of that impact as well as other cost savings
We could do that.
in total. I'm sure that was probably part of your plan, but
It
if I could
was,
put
but
that.
thank you for announcing
If I
it.
could put that on the front burner, I would appreciate it.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Speaking of modulars, real quick, just point of curiosity, do we own any of the modulars in FCPS at all, or do we lease all of them?
We own some. Which ones do we own, gentlemen? I see Wayne shaking his head there.
Wayne, would you mind coming up so people
Yeah,
can
we do
hear?
own some of them, not all, though.
Thank you for the question. Wayne will address that.
Going off agenda here, but
I'm not going to have a complete list. Brian may have more. So we own the old modular unit at Armel, the sprung structures at Armel and at Redbud. We own 4 or 6 of the modulars at James Wood High School. We probably own more. Generally, if they were in place if they were in place more than 3 years before we built the new Ailer, we probably own them.
could I trouble your team for a list of the ones that we own and the ones, how many total we have at FCPS?
We actually have that. We can get that to you, Mrs. Klein.
Excellent.
Yeah,
And
we
then
put it together.
I'd also like to see how much the leased ones, how much is that costing us per year or per month?
Yep, we can
However
get
it's
that to
broken
you.
down. Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Send that to me too.
Well, yeah, I'll send it to all of you guys.
Yeah, we'll-
yes.
No need to fight over who gets that. So we do have that list. Glad to do that
Awesome.
for you. And
Thank
one of
you.
the things I just would always remind everyone is each time you move the modular, it makes it less likely to be used again in the next space. So if they've been moved multiple times, actually IT occupied space that we owned, I think at one point in time, maybe out there in modulars that ended up yielding some need for replacement, which is why we don't own the ones that are there. They just got to be too old. They weren't in good shape and you couldn't refurbish those. So we have a list. We can talk about how much does it cost annually to lease those and all that. We can provide that for you. So thank
Be
you.
great. Thank
Look
you.
forward to doing that for you. Thank you.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. I'm going to
Oh.
go back. I did not mean to rush you.
No.
Ready for the next question?
Did you have any questions?
No, just making sure that we have considered James Wood Middle School needs too, and they might not have something that may be more pressing that they could use the building for.
Yeah.
We do not know of anything more pressing at this time with the renovation of the, or replacement of the bleachers that's going on back there. You may also notice that that's not a paved trail from their parking lot. So anyone with mobility issues, walkers, canes, any kind of equipment like that, we actually, as a part of that overlay that we had questions about, we're going to actually pave that trail so that now it'll be a flat surface that people won't have difficulty getting out there. I don't know of any other issues, but we'll definitely explore that with the principal again. Thank you. Yeah, great question. I appreciate that.
And then I guess it's more of a point, not a question. You know, as we're talking about student space and you know, redistricting and building schools and everything else, I would think that we as a board would move this farther down on the CIP list. Is that way we can take care of the students before we take care of something we already have space for. I know it's not adequate and I know it's not what we want, but we're trying to put students first on this. As we do the assessment on this, it would be nice to see what the overall cost would be to renovate, but keep in mind that as construction costs go up over the years, the farther it's moved down the list, the higher it's going to go. So technology changing and everything else, depending on how far this thing gets bumped down the list, will this be adequate or will this be used for that kind of space? I would almost want to see if this is something that is worth doing right now, or is this something that, you know, is more of a wish and not a need?
Absolutely. I think I could answer those questions best if I did kind of this step one opportunity process and give you that information, if that would be acceptable.
100%, I'm good with that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
The equipment that is in that building, it's going to be displaced. Is there any value or use for whatever may be there?
Anything that's in there, we would go through the process of working with finance to make sure that we eliminate that through the state code. Anything finance would have to say about that, or?
If there's surplus equipment in there, we would put it on surplus and sell it based on what our policy and reg says.
Right. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your question. Any other questions about that? All right, thank you. And then just final item, thank you for the opportunity again tonight. We have a contract award that we're asking you to award. This project, you've heard a lot about safety and security in the division. This award amount comes from a combination of funding sources. About 60% of the award amount comes from grant funds from Tim Conlon in the Safety and Security Department. The other $160,000, $150 some odd $1,000 comes from unobligated dollars that you all approved back in October. So those are the two funding sources that are here. We're not asking for additional funds. The award goes to the vendor Independent Hardware Incorporated. So this would need to move forward if you would like to approve this as a contract to move forward to the full board for approval. Excuse me one moment. We did have 9 bids on the project. I apologize. I know it's important for us to just let everyone know that we had 9 bids on the project. The bids range from the low bid of $363,000 to the high bid of $543,488.97. This particular award goes to the lowest bidder on that list based on our practices and policies. So any questions about the award or the task?
Questions from board members? My question, Mr. Goodwin, would be how much of this came from the grant? How much of this will be covered by the grant, and how much is unobligated dollars?
Okay, the exact figure for the grant would be $206,000 comes from the grant, and then the remaining dollars come from the unobligated dollars. So 363 minus 206, 157, $157,000. Thank you to my mathematician in the back left.
Math magician.
Yeah, math magician. So is that answer sufficient?
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you for your question. Any other questions about the contract award?
Good to go.
Okay. All right, I'll take us back to the agenda. I'm going to pass off the Boy Scouts of America booklet to Mrs. Klein for the board to review. I want to thank you tonight for the opportunity to speak with you, and especially thank my team and all of my friends from Indian Hollow Elementary for coming tonight who were here to help with the presentation. So thank you, everyone. Dr. Hummer, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. So we have 2 items, Mr. Chair, that we're recommending to the full board for approval. The first is the renaming of the trail at Indian Hollow Elementary to the CM Trail, and then the second is rewarding the cylindrical lock replacement installation, which that motion was on the previous slide.
Thank you, Dr. Hummer. We have 2 action items before us. How would the board like to proceed?
I move that we rename the trail at Indian Hollow Elementary to the CM Trail.
If we can, I'm sorry, I apologize. If we can rephrase that, Mrs. White, to recommending to the full board to name it, I apologize,
sure.
please.
I move to recommend to the full board for approval renaming of the trail at Indian Hollow Elementary School to the CM Trail.
Second.
Motion been made, properly seconded. Any discussion? I do have one thing on there. I am so stoked to see this. I didn't know Charlie personally. I made it to his service. And I got to see all the people out there, all the photos that were out there, the cars and outdoor stuff, hunting, fishing. You know, he was just out there all the time. I think this would be a great memorial to him. And, you know, it's something that you guys have talked about that the community can live on through there, help the healing process, and still keep Charlie with us in our hearts. So thank you. With that, I'm going to ask the board to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Going to the full board.
That was the full board. If I may too, Mr. Chair, another thing that I would like to mention is that once this goes to the full board tomorrow, if it's approved, we are going to have a ribbon cutting. So we can do all the things that we were mentioning back there in addition to the ribbon cutting. So we'll make this a big event for you all and you all will be invited, of course, as well. So
Amazing, thank you.
absolutely.
One more item?
I would like to move to recommend to the full board for the contract award cylindrical lock replacement and installation to the Independent Hardware Incorporated for the amount of $363,000.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. All those in favor,
Mr. Chair, should we do a roll call with the amount?
well, we're just taking it to the full
Full board,
board.
okay.
And then we'll probably do a roll call there.
Okay.
You guys comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Motion been made, properly seconded to move the item before us to the full board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion been made, properly seconded for adjournment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes, we are adjourned.